Premium positions, which ones do you think are the most important to stock up on through the portal, knowing that you have both injury and other teams looking to pilfer that talent away? In fact, I was told a couple of days ago, I guess, by a source that there's a Big 12 school that had a preemptive meeting, and I'm sure this is not unique to that school. That's why I'm not going to name them,
Right.
but had a meeting specifically gearing up for the last push to convince kids, "Hey, come to our school." In once the portal opens, come to our school. So
Right.
quite literally a meeting on the at the very least, on the bleeding edge of tampering, uh, in preparation to just try and either take advantage of it or quite frankly, survive. So when there are those positions that stack up on your big board of, "Hey, we need to go get these guys, and stock up on these positions," which ones do you start with?
Well, look, I mean, first off, point of contact is going to be where the most injury is. So you need guys on both lines of scrimmage because, the amount of times one of the big uglies up front gets rolled over or something like that is just too much, right? It just happens too frequently. And so you're going to
Right.
need your guys on your offensive line. You're going to need your guys on your defensive line. But more than that, you're going to need edge guys specifically. When I look at this, I say, what's getting paid for in the NFL because football's football. And if it's in the NFL versus, the college level, those are still the important positions. So who's going to be rushing off the edge and who's going to be that, stud left tackle for you that you can set on the edge and keep the edge pressure off, right? Those are kind of the two big ones that you're wanting to look for the kind of star talent. Maybe go down a level to the guy who is the G5 star or something like that. You can go, snag him or something. But I think also another big one is anything in the secondary because it seems like those guys in the secondary are so just like hit or miss with systems, right? You can get a great guy, then he moves to another school and doesn't quite work out, and the coverage doesn't work, and he doesn't play off of the other guys as well. But it just seems like, man, if you can find the right mix of corners and safeties, you're going to be great on the back end, no problems. And so you need a lot of those guys, I think, to push each other, to really push competition, but also just so you can kind of mix and match. And any random day in practice, you can run different, guys at the ones, different guys with the twos, and find the group that works the best for you. And obviously, some guys are going to be more talented. I'm not saying, there's this 5-star kid, he's not going to amount to anything. Look for that, 3-star guy. He's a better fit with the system or something. I'm not saying that, but obviously, you're going to need a bunch of those guys. If for nothing else than just the fact that again, like it's a lot of guys in the back end. Some of them are going to need breathers, right? And in a long season, in a long game and a these high tempo offenses, especially, you're going to need guys who can roll in and off the field, real quick. They can say like, "Hey, I got the next three" or something like that because you're heaving out there. So it's another position where you can never have too many corners, right? That you can't find yourself enough corners. Too often teams are, it seems like too often at least you see teams going down to the like, hey, this is our, sixth string corner. He's a walk on. He's this guy, and he's playing substantial minutes because that guy hurt his ankle and that guy's out of breath. So this guy's doing his thing now.
I think wide receiver is a position that I'm so
Sure.
curious to watch. You mentioned the injuries with the offensive and defensive line. You start to see a lot of injuries for wide receivers come spring ball and into fall camp as well. Penn State losing Keandre Lambert Smith, who
Yeah.
I think was, going to be weapon number one for Drew Aller up at Penn State. I'm going to do a video here on the channel about Penn State, kind of where the Nittany Lions are in the new look Big Ten. They've really been kind of position C behind Michigan and Ohio State for the last several years, but man, it feels like their stock might be falling. Maybe they missed their championship window. So stay tuned for that. I'll have that up on the channel very, very soon. But losing a guy like Lambert Smith, that hurts. And now another program is going to go be able to potentially get a wide receiver too, depending on how you want to use him. Maybe he's a wide receiver one if he goes to a school that's a little bit less established at the position, but always being open to adding that X factor playmaker, especially heading into the fall campaign. I think it's a big advantage if you can manage to land one of those fish. Sneaky position group that I think far too many people forget about when it comes to recruiting in the portal is at linebacker. Now, I know that you have fewer and fewer linebackers on the field. And, certainly when you think of a traditional linebacker who's splitting the A gap and just there for run defense, that's largely gone from the game now with so many nickel and dime defenses on the field. You really need a guy who can stuff the run and drop back into coverage. But having at least two every down linebackers who you can roll out there and rely on in both a passing situation, cover a tight end, cover a guy coming underneath, or step up and stop the run. That is vital, especially when you talk about the championship caliber football, the Georgias, the Michigans, the Alabamas. They all get elite linebacker play on an every down basis. You can't just mail in that position and kind of go with, two guys that, well, they're a little too big to play safety and, too small to
Hmm.
play edge rusher. You've got to have a dedicated linebacker core ready to go. And I think too often when you look down the portal tracker, I think those linebackers maybe get overlooked.
Yeah, well, and the big thing with linebackers too is I don't know that there's a more important position on the field where you need that versatility and that overall athleticism, right? Because you're totally right. You got to be able to drop into coverage in today's game and be able to get out and get on a tight end real quick or stuff a slot or something like that. But also, I mean, run stop's a big deal. How about rushing the passer as well in some of those blitz packages, being able to be a guy who can actually get after the passer, beat an offensive lineman, have a couple pass rush moves, and see if you can actually make something happen. There's just so many things that we're asking linebackers to do now, which makes them so much more valuable, right? Like I have no idea where Tennessee's guy is going, but wherever he ends up, he's going to be a stud, and he's probably going to cement himself a nice little NIL deal as well. Because look, if you can get those guys on your roster, that's what you're looking for, right? You need a guy who can jump up, be a tackling machine all over the field. You have that, it opens up your defense. I totally agree. You got to look out for linebackers on this list as well.
Gracious, how about